This is Alabama's maximum security Kilby Prison, located on the outskirts of Montgomery. It stands today in basically the same form as it was when constructed back in the early 1920s. Kilby is representative of the antiquated prison conditions which Alabama prison officials say are in need of dire correction. And we all have a share in this program. For the men and the women who enter prison today to pay their debt to society will one day, by and large, return to that same society. The conditions under which they spend their confinement will be a determining factor in the type of citizen they make once on the outside. Aside and apart from the very important factor of social adjustment, you might also look at this from a cold business position. The fewer inmates, the less the tax burden. It's a problem, then, that reaches beyond the prison walls. A special legislative committee has been at work studying the ways and the means of financing and projecting this changeover. Does the correction system really correct, or is prison just a place for marking time between crimes? What is needed and why? For an answer to these questions, for an insight into conditions as they exist, let's step beyond the prison walls. First, a stop in the office of Prison Commissioner Frank Lee.
Just asking for impromptu, off-the-cuff answer. If you had to give a one-line description of Kilby at the present time, could you come up with one? What would be your answer to that?
I would say that it is an antiquated monstrosity. The best description I can give.
It's been stated now that the time has come here in Alabama to plan new correctional facilities. Mr. Lee, could you tell us what changes should be made and why?
Well, we have certain definite ideas about changes that should be brought about in the Alabama prison system. It's been told many, many times now that we're in definite need of a new institution to replace the old Kilby prison. It is in a very deplorable condition. It would cost $1 million or more to even put in decent, livable condition, aside from the fact that it's so badly located that we can no longer wake prisoners that are confined to Kilby on the outside, on kind of the close proximity of residences to the institution. We are just about in the same shape with our trustee barracks, which adjoin Kilby Prison. They are outmoded and overcrowded. We're in the same situation as number 4 honor camp, where we house some 385 Negroes all the time. Actually, all of the prisoners assigned there are kept in an old building that was formerly a chicken house, and we feel like that certainly should be corrected. In addition to that, why we have great need for facilities for schools for particularly the youthful offender, and we hope by building a new women's prison in Elmo County that we can use the facilities at Tutwiler for an institution for the young offender in Alabama. In our present facilities, we have no way to offer any educational, either academic or vocational, except a very limited degree. And certainly we intend to include that in our new program. We have no facilities for modern industry in any of our system. We certainly hope to include quite a bit of that in the new planning too.
You mentioned the desirable separation of chronic offenders from the youthful or the first offender. Would a new prison setup allow for a change in this situation?
It certainly would, and I have a point at hand that disturbs me very much. I just checked today, and I find that we have 172 prisoners under 20 years old that are now serving their first sentence in the penitentiary. And in my candid opinion, the way that we're having to handle them, Out of the 172, we actually will manufacture 100 first-class convicts. Give us time. And I think that if we could separate them and have them in different housing situations where they wouldn't have to be around the old offender, we could certainly make a man out of him instead of another prisoner.
How much time have you spent inside prison walls?
25 years
What were you originally sent up for?
for murder.
In 25 years in prison, you've had a chance to see the results of old prisoners mingling with young prisoners. What do you think of this setup?
Well, I think it's not a good thing. I think it'd be a better thing for young prisoners to be separated from the older prisoners.
Why?
Well, the younger prisoners, there's a lot of them with a lot of older people, is led by the older people into sex and other things. It's not decent to live with.
You say other things. Could you mention any particular?
Well, such as substitutes for narcotics and things like that.
Do you think perhaps mingling with the older criminals might make them do things when they get out that they might not do otherwise?
Yes, sir, I do. I do. They leave here in worse shape than they were when they came in.
What are you in prison for?
Burglarizing grocery store.
Is this the first time that you've been in prison?
Yes, sir.
Now, you say you burglarized a grocery store.
Yes, sir.
Could you tell us why? What made you commit the original crime?
Well, I was out on my own, you know. I didn't have any place to stay or nothing. That's why I was broke. And I broke in the store.
How large a family do you come from?
Around 8 in the family.
What do you think of the system whereby the older, more hardened inmate is put in with the young offender?
And I don't know. Don't have much comment on that, I don't guess. More or less what you want to know, you know.
Have you run into any specific incidents where the young first offender, we'll say, might have picked up bad habits or learned more criminal tendencies by being in direct connection with the older, more hardened criminal?
Yes, I believe they would.
Do you have anything specific in mind?
Well, not necessarily, I mean, it's just the way for what you say, a hardened criminal, you talk, you know. And probably lead a younger guy to bad language, you know. Of course, when a young guy comes in like this, well, there's someone always telling him maybe how to crack a safe, something like that, you know. So I don't know if it does too much good.
Do you feel you've learned any good, positive lesson from your first crime and from being caught and placed in prison? Has this taught you any lesson?
Yes, sir. I know I did wrong, you know that. I think when I get out, I won't be back.
Even though Draper Correctional Center is designed primarily to house youthful offenders, I understand that you do have older inmates there also. Could you tell us why?
Well, they simply do not have facilities for them elsewhere.
Well, what is the big disadvantage of having two opposing age groups together?
Well, of course, the needs of the older prisoners conflict with the young. For instance, the older prisoners require more medical attention, they need more rest, they like peace and quiet as compared to younger men.
How about habits that might be transferred?
Well, of course, the younger inmates pick up habits, negative attitudes, and criminal techniques from the older men. Of course, the older men also are not enthusiastic for self-improvement, and they're not conducive to an atmosphere of self-improvement.
This is a broad area, of course, but could you tell us what the young offender needs that he doesn't have at the present?
Well, we need more academic and vocational training. We need more and better recreation programs, and we particularly need an organized counseling program for the young offenders.
Kilby Prison, I understand, is set up as a maximum security prison for the more hardened type criminal. I understand also that the actual inmate percentage is out of proportion to the needs for a maximum security prison. Could this be subdivided down in a new prison system?
That is definitely so. We have at Kilby today about 900 prisoners. And I would say that 650 of these prisoners could be kept in housed in a minimum security or medium security unit if we had the proper facilities, and only 250, 300 of the entire group need maximum security. And we think that an institution for approximately 400 maximum security prisoners will be all that we will need in Alabama.
Would it stand to reason, am I correct in assuming from a business standpoint it would seem this way, am I correct in saying that it would cost more to maintain a maximum security facility such as you have here than one for prisoners who are considered, say, minimum security risk?
That is definitely so. It requires a different type building. The costs run 3 or 4 times as much. You have to have cells and that type thing. Prisoners that are presently confined in Kilby and do not need such housing, we plan to build new minimum and medium type building. They cost less than half the money. It costs considerably less to furnish the manpower to supervise them, and it will save the department untold thousands of dollars in operating minimum and medium type institutions as opposed to the old outmoded Kilby institution.
Could you give us some specific examples of living and working conditions presently existing here at Kilby that need correcting?
Yes, we've got quite a few conditions that we're not too happy with, particularly in the kitchen, the dining room. All the services there are old and outmoded. Our library is small and inadequate for the large population that we have. The machinery in the cotton mill, the tag plant, canning plant is all old, used, remade equipment. Our hospital, while it's well staffed, the facilities there are very inadequate, both for the regular patients and the tubercular patients. In addition to that, we have a terrible situation with the powerhouse here at Kilby, which has 2 350 horsepower boilers that, if tampered with just a little bit at the wrong time, could get this job done a little bit quicker than we'd want it done. It's a very dangerous situation.
We at the present time are in the Kilby prison yard. The noise that you might hear in the background is coming from the prison-operated cotton mill. To our immediate front is the Kilby powerhouse. Mr. Lee, what is the function of this powerhouse and what is wrong with its present location?
Well, Bill, this powerhouse furnishes all the power for the entire operation of the prison system inside the walls. You know, the canning plant, the cotton mill, and there's 2 350 horsepower boilers there. And number one fallacy here is the location of the powerhouse. It should be, in our opinion, outside of the walls. Number two, the machinery, the boilers, the pipes are in terrible condition and should be replaced throughout.
This, of course, is a rather vital function of the prison system, I would imagine.
It's just like the heart in a person. It's a very important function.
I believe the condition which exists here was corrected in the federal penitentiary in Atlanta just recently.
Yes, sir. I understand that they've just constructed a $3 million power plant just outside of the walls there.
They saw fit then to move theirs from the interior also to the exterior of the prison.
That is correct.
What would be the approximate cost here of making this move?
Well, roughly, in our new planning, it would cost $750,000 to $1.5 million for a modern power plant.
Approximately 250 inmates of Kilby Prison spend about 9 to 10 hours a day working here in the Kilby cotton mill to the background. What exactly, Mr. Lee, are the existing inadequacies in your cotton mill setup?
Bill, the many inadequacies in the mill here, I think you can see by just turning around there that the buildings are in deplorable condition. The machinery is approximately 30 years old. Much of it was second-handed at the time the state of Alabama acquired it. In the weave shop, one operator can operate successfully about 8 looms. And out in the free mills, the free world as we speak of it, one woman can operate 48 to 100. So you can see that we are way behind the modern operation there. And we manufacture for ourselves here about 15,000 yards of goods a week, and quite a bit of goods for the foreign market. The lighting is very bad, and much of the machinery is in such condition that if a part breaks down, we actually have to make it ourselves. And it's pretty tough to operate with the machinery we have and conditions being what they are.
You mentioned lighting. How about ventilation?
Ventilation is pretty bad, too. The boys will ventilate it themselves most of the time by just taking out the window panes as they get to them and furnish the ventilation that they haven't got.
Well, it would seem to me to follow that if the facilities here are not on a par with what you will find in a similar cotton mill outside, then you have a negative rehabilitation situation. In other words, they are not learning here something that they could take up as an occupation on the outside.
Well, they would be ill-equipped to go into a first-class modern mill after having worked for several years in this operation here.
The new modernistic equipment replacing the present antiquated setup, as I see it, would not only make for better operation of the mill, but also would be a positive rehabilitation factor sort of built in as a bonus.
You're absolutely correct. It would be.
It seems to me that one of our greatest needs is vocational training. Some training for these men so when they are released on parole or go free, they can find a job.
Am I correct in saying that this in turn would actually be a
savings perhaps to the taxpayer in that if the men had a job to go to when they went out, had been trained in a vocation, that perhaps they wouldn't be among the present 65% that return?
Yes, I'm sure it would cut down that percent.
Warden, what changes are needed in your cell block facilities?
I would say primarily, Bill, we need to have a single cell proposition for each man. At the present, we have at least 2 men on the bottom floor in each cell, and on the upper tiers we have as many as 10, 12, and 14.
What is the disadvantage of having, say, 10 to 12 men in one cell, even though the cell is large enough to accommodate them?
Well, from the viewpoint of the public interest, of course, and the moral considerations involved, in grouping this number of men together in a single enclosure breeds the kinds of vices that we're all very much concerned about, the byproducts of this kind of living in the prison. Perversion, theft from one another, the lack of privacy, which breeds many vices.
In cases of extreme discipline, it's necessary to put a man in solitary confinement, or I believe you refer to it as the hole. Would there be any improvements needed here?
Oh, I would say definitely. Our solitary confinement units are quite antiquated. We use a slop bucket in the corner. These are concrete holes, exactly named for what they are. We should have, for example, for improved sanitation conditions, recessed bathroom facilities. The control would be on the outside. This would keep the interior a lot cleaner than we're able to maintain it at this time. We should have more of these facilities to take care of a man on an individual basis. When you put more than one individual in a solitary confinement cell, you compound the difficulties that you have in the other types of cells in which you place more than one man, you know.
For more prolonged confinement, you use the segregation cell. What is needed here?
Again, 1 man per cell unit. In this particular situation, we have extended confinement, separation from the general population. If this is to have any meaning for the public, the institution, and the man, you can enforce your disciplinary controls better in the 1-man cell situation, and also you give the man the reasonable amount of separation from his fellows that he may prefer himself.
The Kilby Prison Hospital is equipped to care for the physical ills of the inmates. However, there are no facilities for caring for mental infirmities. This is a problem in which you and I, the general public, have a share, as well as the inmates and the prison officials. Particularly frightening to some is the prospect of the sex offender, the child molester, the habitual sex deviant, who is sent to prison for a short time and is punished but not treated, then turned back on society to ply perhaps his old sex deviant traits. Mr. Lee, do we have any psychiatric facilities for treatment of this type prisoner at the present time?
No, we do not. Facilities of that type are practically non-existent.
What is planned along that line under the new prison system?
Well, we plan to include a ward for psychiatric patients in our new hospital facilities under the new plans.
What is done at the present moment, if anything really emergency-wise should come up along the line of psychiatric care?
Prisoners of this type are brought before our Sanity Commission, and in their opinion, it's felt necessary, they are committed to Bryce Hospital. But the facilities for caring for this type prisoner at Bryce Hospital is also limited. And they'll keep them for a short time and notify us that under the right supervision, they will make splendid prisoners. And so we take them back and do the best we can with them.
Do they make splendid prisoners?
In very few cases. Very few cases.
You have a psychiatrist on loan, I believe, from the military.
We have an agreement with Maxwell Field that we secure their psychiatrists on an hourly basis, which we use them about once a month when our Senate Commission meets.
How many prisoners here in Kilby?
About 900 at the present time.
That would give us one psychiatrist on about a once-a-month basis for 900 men. Is that about it?
Yeah, and I feel very definitely we have all 50 to 125 of that population that are very much in need of psychiatric treatment.
Crime and punishment, cause and correction. That's the picture as it exists today. Officials say the time has come for an overhauling of Alabama's prison system. Legislators are at work mapping the blueprints for this projected changeover. The benefits will be reaped not only on the inside, but on the outside as well. In this day of complicated living, neither man nor society is an island, isolated one from the other.